Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Talking Ballax podcast. Today, we are talking about where the Premier League title was won and lost, and I've got a brilliant guest on this week. Unfortunately, it's only me. Euan couldn't make it. He's out living his best life on a bank holiday Monday, but I am joined by the wonderful comedian, Man City fan, Alex Hylton. Alex, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. Thanks for having me. It was a great weekend to be a Manchester City fan, I'm afraid. So I hate to. I'm sure they're probably the worst guest you want to be interviewing as a Leicester fan. But thank you for having me on the show. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Good. Thank you very much, man. And thank you for giving up your time. Like, I know you're really busy at the moment. Like, summer's coming in. It's like festival season. So, have you got anything like booked in? Any events and stuff coming up?
Yeah, loads of stuff. I was just did Brighton Fringe over the weekend, and I was in sort of Darlington and Middlesbrough and sort of northeast last weekend. I'm actually working in Leicester this week, and then I'm out in Loughborough on Friday. And on Saturday I'm at Wembley, so I've managed to keep my diary free to get down there as well for that, which I'm very looking forward to, man.
That's good. So anyone who doesn't know, like I was fortunate enough to meet Alex when he used to do the pub quizzes at our local pub in Melton at the Welby, and just nice guy. I ended up going to see him at Leicester Comedy Festival, like follow his career a little bit, but it's just how's it going? You getting much more like a follower base at all? Getting regular sort of features, or is it mostly those sort of fringe festivals and stuff?
My career is going so well that I have to appear on the Talking Ballax podcast to take tickets. That's the level I'm at. No, it's been awesome, man. It's a genuine like living the dream, and I really enjoy what I do. And it's I've been doing stand up for like 10 years, which is nuts because I started at 18.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, that seems like a really cool thing that people can do. And I was so like excited about it and fascinated by it, and just dedicated so much of my life to try to do it and get good at it. And got to a point now where 10 years later, I get to do it for a job, and I have no other skills. I've got nothing that is useful to anyone. I couldn't work in an office. I've got no qualifications of any sort of note. So I just have to keep plowing on doing this now, and hopefully it will carry on being enough to pay my bills. And I'm lucky, man. I get to travel all over the country and meet lots of interesting people, and you get to do cool little projects and be on fun podcasts on a Monday afternoon, and it's a really nice way to kind of to live your life. You know, I'm blessed.
That's good, man. That's really good to hear. But to be fair, I will challenge you on your skills. From again, you also have experience of pulling pints and being not a landlord, but being a bar manager for a little bit as well, don't you? Obviously, worked at the Salmon for a little bit.
Yeah, I was licensee at the Salmon, which is a cracking little boozer in Leicester City Centre. Old school real ale pub, proper grandad pub, but with a bit of Sky Sports thrown in, and it was great. I had the pub over lockdown, so I got my own sort of Shaun of the Dead type experience of coronavirus, of living in a pub in the city centre on my own and just getting drunk in the sunshine in the beer garden on my own, sort of mid-apocalypse. It was a great fun time, man. And I feel weirdly like I've always kind of been football related. So before I had the pub, I used to work for Radio XS Manchester, covering Manchester City, and I worked on a YouTube channel called Blue Moon Rising, which people might remember. We were the sister station to Full Time Devils, the infamous home of Mark Goldbridge and Stephen Howson and that whole gang, Adam McCullough. And we were working on Manchester City stuff on the side, just as City were kind of on the rise, which was like so much fun and crazy. And then even kind of running a pub that was so sports based, I kind of developed like an affinity for Leicester City, because with the pub being based in Leicester, you find yourself cheering Leicester on, because you know if Leicester played well, the pub did well, and you kind of really get into it, and you feel like the fortunes of the club are woven into the fortunes of the pub, and it's always kind of worked in stuff that is like football or football adjacent. But yeah,
that's good, man. But am I right? I always remember this. I think I remember this correctly. Didn't you do like those small little fan segments for BT Sport for a little bit as well? Did you do some of those for Man City, or am I thinking of?
Yeah. Through Blue Moon Rising. When football fan channels were a thing, I'm sure we remember that kind of period of like Arsenal Fan TV was huge, and True Geordie was doing stuff. Blue Moon Rising kind of developed at the same time as they did, and we started doing fan cams where we'd stand outside the Etihad and interview people after matches, and people would kind of have their say on how things were going. And then BT asked me to basically be their fan on the fan cam. I guess a weird confession is that when Blooming Rising ended, I had no reason to be at away matches other than for my own pleasure. So I would go to as many aways as I possibly could. But we're doing stand-up as a full-time job. Quite often, I'm nearly always working on a Saturday night. So the problem that I used to have was that I'd have a gig on a Saturday night. If Manchester City had an away match that was a late kickoff, unless that away match happened to be in the same town as where my gig would be, I wouldn't be able to do both. But I couldn't. I kind of signed up to do work for BT Sport and do their football fan cams. So quite often I'd be reporting from the Emirates, and I'd actually be stood outside a brick wall in Newcastle, having watched the match in a pub. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, the atmosphere at the Emirates was absolutely bouncing today. I've had to get down a side street because I couldn't get a moment's peace outside the ground." And that was very much how that worked for quite a long time.
I think that phrase is the magic of TV, isn't it? Like that's the like this, like I don't know, not quite a green screen, but as close as you could possibly get in a street somewhere in a random town in England, I guess. But
yeah, definitely. As I look behind the magician's curtain for you. They were good times, man. And that was like, it was a really weird thing. Very weirdly, I actually got recognised from Blue Moon Rising today. I've no real celebrity status whatsoever. I am not a famous person. But like during that kind of rise of Blue Moon Rising, we had like 35,000, 40,000 subscribers around that. And they were almost all like teenage boys in the Northwest.
Yeah.
So there was a sort of thing of like, if I'm going to walk through the Arndale shopping centre in Manchester, a teenage boy will recognise me at some point, which is such a weirdly specific, like Z-list level of celebrity. But every now and again, somebody will like clock me. And I was just in the co-op this morning, and the guy said to me was like, "Are you that guy from Blue Moon Rising?" You'd be like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." And they're like, what was your name? And then they're like Stephen, Paul, and like list everybody else that was on the channel. Like, "Oh no, you were the other one." Yeah. Like, how's that going? And you're like, "Yeah, I've done that for years. We've folded as a channel." But such a weirdly specific level of a world. And I'm sure you know that through sort of football podcasting. It's kind of a very closed community of people that are very niche and have very, very specific football interests that kind of get involved in these little things.
Yeah, I think there's definitely we haven't. I mean, we're a long way off reaching that level. I don't think I've been recognised by anybody who doesn't know me, to be fair. But you know, if you get there, you realise that. I mean, I suppose when you think about that, you compare it to the players that we all idolise. Like they must get that every single day of their lives, probably 15, 20 times a day, and it must probably get a bit irritating after a while. But you know, I'd probably for the fame and the money and the fanfare and the love and adoration they get, you would probably trade it a little bit, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess it depends on like the individual, doesn't it? I've been fortunate enough to meet kind of a handful of footballers through my travels. I remember like Jesus Navas had absolutely no interest in being a celebrity whatsoever, and I think I got to interview Jesus Navas, and he's quite an interesting guy, but he was incredibly cautious of how he's perceived, and he didn't want to kind of draw any attention to himself, or didn't want to be recorded to say anything like dramatic or exotic. And I think that's very understandable. But when you're interviewing him, you kind of like, it'd be really useful if you said something dramatic or exotic to make this like worth watching. But I think he was just somebody who was very good at football as a kid, and realised it was something that he enjoyed and he could make a lot of money out of, and had quite a glittering career, played for some top clubs and played at a very high level for most of his career, and earned a lot of money and supported his whole family and his whole community of people. But it was definitely somebody that after football was not going to be a pundit or manager or somebody that had an underwear line or anything like that, because I think he was just a fairly regular guy. Yet there's other footballers, I don't know, the Jack Grealishes of this world, that seem to kind of revel in the superstardom, and I'm sure Jack Grealish, once he's finished playing football, will be someone that stays very much in the public limelight, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's some players that revel in it and some players that maybe don't. But speaking of players that revel in it, you've just won your 4th title in 5 years. I think it's from a neutral point of view, and I don't want this to just be an anti-Man City thing. Absolutely not, because I appreciate the football that you play and the job that Pep's doing. But does this one feel as special as all the others, or do you think like when you win consistently that you kind of just go, like, when the expectation is to win the league every year, does it take away from winning the league every year, or is it still as great as it always is?
No, it's loads better. It's loads better. It's like it gets better every time, honestly. And people say like, "Oh, isn't it boring now? Man City are brilliant." No, it's loads better now. We're brilliant. It's loads more fun. We're constantly playing like massive games, and it means really that like now, because this title race was so good and Arsenal was so good this year and so consistent, and there were times this season where it really didn't look like Arsenal were going to lose a game.
Yeah,
It meant that every single game for City was a must-win. And I think that has put City in a better position. If City had won the league by 20 points in the same way that it generally goes in the Scottish League, Celtic are so far ahead of everybody else, then it would have been maybe got quite dull. But it got to a point where every single game that you go to as a City fan or you watch as a City fan, it's like, we cannot lose it. We cannot lose. We cannot draw. That would be a disaster. So every single game's a nail biter and you worry about it and you stress. And because the Premier League is so unpredictable and anyone can beat anybody over 90 minutes, and City drop points to Brentford, twice this season, and various other games, other teams that they were expected not to, is it means that actually, it's like far more dramatic than when City were a bit more mid-table or further down the league, or City are in a situation where we'd be safe from relegation, but we'd be safe from relegation with like 5 games to go. So we end up having 5 friendlies in the sunshine. Whereas now, City, it's felt very much that everything's crucial, everything's dramatic. And bizarrely, I'm old enough that I remember City in the second division. I remember City being not very good. I remember City having to play for a point quite frequently. I remember when we would expect it to go down. I remember all that sort of stuff. Now, 9 times out of 10 City play, they're expected to win.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10 they do win. But I still feel like City's best years are ahead of them. I don't think City have peaked yet. I think without what's tempt fate, I think City probably will do the treble this season. I think next year, we could. There's Club World Cup. There's the European Super Cup. We never won that. There's still, tearing over ahead of us. There's more things we can do. There's more things we can accomplish. And growing up and watching United win all the time and United be the big villains of football. If you'd have told me in the early noughties that there would be a period where Manchester United didn't win the league for 10 years, that would have seemed ridiculous. Of course, Man United are going to be up there. And that day will come for City, and it will come quite soon, where City have their collapse, because Guardiola will leave. He might leave this season, he might leave next season, he might leave in 10 years. But Pep will leave, and we'll have our own fallout, the same way that Arsenal did after Wenger and United did after Ferguson, and somebody will replace us. And whether that's Newcastle, whether that's Man United again, whether it's Brighton and Hove Albion, who knows? It could be anybody. It might even be Leicester, who knows? But it will happen. And football goes in cycles, and I'm just loving it. And I will never say it's boring. I will never not make the most of the fact that City are brilliant and are probably the best team in the world, because it will all fall away one day.
It's weird though, isn't it? Like, and I think I probably agree with you. Like, the comparison to maybe Man United in the 90s, early noughties, there is a direct comparison there, really, isn't it? Because everyone's sort of saying, oh, City have won 4 out of the last 5. They've won X amount over the last 10 years. But do you think that the only reason people point at City the way they do and say that's a bad thing compared to when United did it is because, and this isn't me saying this, but like, do you think it's just because of the money? Do you think if City hadn't done it through fair and foul means, that people wouldn't maybe say like that's bad compared to when United, like when United did it, everyone's like, Fergie's the greatest, they've got some of the best players in the Premier League era, like they're dominating, they're the best team. Whereas City, everyone sort of goes, yeah, they're great, but with United, there was never a but, was there?
United branded it better, I think. I think, and it's like, this is where the bit of football is always decided that I'm not interested in. And it's very easy for me to say that as a Man City fan. But I think when you see Twitter accounts and they're like talking about net spend and the net spend league table, it's like, I didn't get into football for the accountancy side of it. But people comparing their spreadsheets against other clubs, it's like, I do not care. I do not care. And I think it's fascinating. People go like, well, we bought him for 12 million, but we shouldn't have spent more than 10. Is it your money? Is it your money? No, it's some mad billionaire that owns it. It's their money. Let them spend it. And I do get that's very easy for me as a Manchester City fan. I think Bury fans and Macclesfield fans that have their clubs have had so many financial problems. I do understand at that level it becomes very relevant and very real.
Yeah,
I think for City, United were the biggest budget team in the league when they won it in Treble in '99. They spent more money than everybody else. Their wages were higher. Their wages are highest in the league this year, I think, and they're still top of the wages league table. People at City will always level the money accusation at City because of the nature of how it came in very, very quickly. And I can't deny that they've bought big signings. But name a player other than Jack Grealish, a player that Manchester City have signed that one of the top four couldn't have signed. United could have afforded Kevin De Bruyne. Liverpool could have afforded Kevin De Bruyne. Chelsea certainly could have afforded Kevin De Bruyne, and they had, and they didn't. You could apply that to Ruben Diaz. You could apply that to Laporte. You could apply that to Edison. You could apply it to every single one of those players. They were all up for sale, and they were all within budgets. And you see, look at Liverpool have thrown money at Nunes and Van Dijk and Alisson over the years, and those transfers have worked. There's been other transfers that haven't worked. I think at City, it feels like the whole project has been so well managed, from the academy to the directors in the boardroom to all that sort of stuff. And you're kind of seeing this whole thing come together. And the rest of football seems to be readjusting to that. And you're seeing clubs now completely restructure based on how City have done it. And City have evolved and broken into that top four. And I really, really think that the Premier League owes Manchester City a bit of gratitude, because when I was growing up, it was the top four was United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal every year. City and the money appeared and started taking points off the big teams, and it meant Tottenham broke into the top four. City then broke into the top four. Leicester won the league. We've started seeing other teams sneak into that fourth spot in and out. We've started to see other teams break into the European places below them and get more interesting. And Newcastle this year. And I really don't think if City's money had come in, that wouldn't have happened. But that you get into the ifs, buts, and maybes. And I'm loving the team that City put together. And it's the craziest thing. The only real objection to City being great now that I have is that you can have a conversation with a 16-year-old who watches loads of football, who knows quite a lot about football, who doesn't remember City being anything apart from very good.
Yeah.
At worst, we were good and finished third in the league is what they remember. And it's crazy talking to people who don't remember us being a bit naff and remember us throwing all our eggs on Sean Wright Phillips and players like that. And now we've kind of got this team of superstars, and
I remember
take that as a given.
I remember last time Leicester got relegated 2003-04 from the Premier League. Last time we got relegated, we played at Manchester City. We played away at you, and it was like a relegation 6 pointer. You only ended. I think you finished 16th, and we finished 18th. And that just shows it was ridiculous. But it's kind of the same with Leicester. Like, a lot of our fans, like those sort of younger ones who are 16, 18, like they've only seen us be decent. Like even like if you went back 12 years, let alone that, we were in the Championship, like in and around the playoffs all the time. Like, go a bit back before that, and we were League One and like bottom half Championship club. It's perspective, and things do change in football. But do you think that how seriously do you as a fan take the charges from the FA? Like, I don't want to be too negative. I would like to get onto how amazing this City team are, but just getting these out of the way, how seriously do you take those charges? Like, do you think they will have serious repercussions, or do you think it'll be City's lawyers, a bit like the UEFA ones? City's lawyers will come in and do the job, and it'll be business as usual again?
We're going to be like super cynical. I think money talks, doesn't it? And I think if it's all old men in a boardroom, all sitting around like Bond villains on a table, and they all look like each other, and it's all blokes that not one of them would stand a minute in the terraces of an actual football match. They're not supporters like you or I. So who knows what they're going to do? It's certainly whatever decision they make, it won't be what you or I think will be any relevance to it. It's all about what can make them the most money. That's what rules football. And it really annoys me that people talk about this as if it's some sort of fairness issue, because the big four clubs, the biggest fan bases, United, Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea, have always built the Premier League around themselves. They're trying to pull up the drawbridge so no one else can get in there because they're all making the money. And they've got the biggest fan bases in the world, those clubs, of the English sides. So it suits the Premier League and it suits the Football Association that the teams with the biggest fan base are playing in the biggest matches every season and getting the most TV attention. That's how it works. It's capitalism in action. That's like makes sense. UEFA are the same, and UEFA don't want anybody else into the Champions League. By the way, they certainly didn't like it when Leicester were in the Champions League. UEFA were quite happy to see the back of Leicester because Leicester weren't a side that were going to bring in a global TV audience. I think if you asked UEFA, could the Champions League final be Real Madrid versus Man United every year, I think that would probably work for UEFA quite well. And I think that's sort of how it feels now with all this stuff coming in. And the stuff, it feels like it's the bigger clubs trying to muscle City out of the equation. And when you see that list and you see the Sky Sports footage, and it's a man looking very serious, and he's walking into their head office with a briefcase, and everyone's real concerned. And they go, condition number 6 is the grass is too long at the Etihad. The tea and coffee facilities aren't very good, and it's just like all that sort of stuff. You think, they just can't pin anything on City, and they're trying to get Escobar for his taxes. It really does feel like that with City, and the charges against them. And if it happens, then cool, it happens, and we go and play in the 4th division, and that will be loads of fun. It'll be loads of new stadiums and really, really exciting. And I'd be fascinated to see what would happen. Would Guardiola go and manage us at the bottom of League 2, or would he go? Would some of the players stay? Would they go? Would it be like when Rangers went down, and it would go into League 2, but we'd have all the best facilities and would absolutely clean up? It would be loads of fun if that happened. I would enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's not
because
it's not going to take away the memories of the last 10 years either, is it? Like those memories and everything you saw on the football pitch in front of you, like whatever happens in the future, it doesn't take away that as a fan, does it? Like everything you saw, the players that you had, the memories, the Aguero moment, the like winning the FA Cup, for the first time, in a long time, when the first trophy after the money came in, seeing Vincent Kompany score that worldie against Leicester to basically seal the title, that doesn't disappear with these charges, does it? Those memories are still there. They can't strip the titles from them because it's a bit of a slippery slope, isn't it? Like if you go into what have City done wrong? You could throw that at Chelsea, you could throw that at United, you could probably throw it at maybe Leicester, Everton. Everton have still got an investigation on them now. Like every single team is probably creative with their accounting, and you can't really post-date. Like if it's legal when you do it, and then you change the rule to make it illegal, is it illegal or was it illegal then, or is it illegal now? So yeah, it's all kind of like you said, it's all kind of ifs, buts, and maybes, isn't it? So
yeah, it feels also like there's a lot of people go like, well, like Man United, United make all their money properly, and it's like, yeah, but how did United get to be the biggest club first? Because they spent more than everybody else. They just did it ages ago, before inflation and all that kind of stuff. And it's now they get to be the ones sitting in the throne and go, you can't do what we did 40 years ago. And it's very much in that kind of frame for me. And I think it's baffling. And I think, say the season City beat Liverpool to the title by a point, would it make Liverpool fans happy? Would they really enjoy it if the FA went, right, we're going to strip Man City of that title and Liverpool can win another Premier League in an empty stadium and they can lift the trophy and they go, yeah, you won it. And realistically, do we believe that the story that, where did they get Darwin Núñez from? Is he from the Wirral? No, they spent loads of money and they bought him. And all the other players they spent loads of money on, and they're owned by an American billionaire. And like none of these clubs are innocent. And I just find it like bonkers that people try and pretend that there's any level of football that is ethical at a Premier League level. You're watching millionaires in multicolored boots. None of them pay any tax. They've all got like horrendous personal records. They've all got drink drive allegations and cheating on their wives and doing terrible things. They're wearing shirts that we buy for 70 quid that are made in sweatshirts on the other side of the planet. You watch it on Sky Sports, giving your money to Rupert Murdoch so he can do all of his sinister things that he does with the media around the world. And you go at halftime and you have your pie made out of like tortured beef, the cheapest, horrible abattoir meat. It's like the whole thing is filthy. And if you're a Forest Green Rovers fan, then you get to point the finger at people. But everybody else in football, it's a really filthy industry, and it makes me miserable because football hasn't belonged to the fans, and it's not been an organic thing. And I try to be a progressive person in my life, and I try to do good things and be a charitable person when I can. And football is a real vice. And if you think about it for too long, it's so sad. So sad football. And I know that Sheikh Mansour is probably it's been involved in all sorts of things, and there's definitely an element of sports washing with City, but I don't think it's any different to what happens with the Premier League and the World Cup and everything else that's going on at the minute. I don't think it's unique to City at all, and we're certainly not innocent, but I don't think anybody else is either, really.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think like I said, every single club and every organisation involved in football could have some sort of accusation thrown at them in some way. So, but we'll step away from the negatives and we'll try and go back to the on the pitch. It's weird, isn't it, how City are now probably widely recognised as the best team in Europe, therefore probably the best team in the world, when actually everyone was saying that this looked like it was going to be a poor season for them at the start of the year. Like, did you feel like that, or did you think it was a matter of time before the team came good?
I mean, I'm always kind of nervous about City, and it does. I think that's like woven into the club because the fan base from the club, the core kind of fan base, remembers City kind of making bad decisions and throwing it away. So there's always a nervousness. I think other clubs. I don't think anybody expected what happened at Chelsea to happen this season. I don't think anybody expected what happened at Liverpool this season to have happened. I think with City, even the most optimistic fan, I don't think would think, oh, City will do the treble this year, or City will be as amazing as they have. And I really think this City team could beat any other City team in history. I think it's the best version of Manchester City there's ever been, certainly in my lifetime. And I think that's the kind of angle. It's all, when you look at how good they have been, it was always going to outdo what people expected City to do.
Yeah.
I find with City next year, I'm quite nervous because I think it looks like Gundogan's going to go. It looks like Bernardo Silva's going to go. It looks like Laporte's going to go. The Guardiola, there's no certainties. If something amazing happens this year, Guardiola won't leave on a high, and that will create an element of uncertainty. I think so. There's all that kind of stuff going on that makes me worry about next season. And I do think Liverpool and Chelsea will come back bigger than ever. I think Newcastle could be a really serious threat next year. United seem to be building a project there and doing things the right way. So, for this year, City's to be the side that they have been and beating Real Madrid, and not just beating Real Madrid, like battering Madrid at the Etihad.
Yeah,
it just seems to be the stuff that. And it makes me look back at previous years. The season we got to the Champions League final and played Chelsea, I thought, oh, this is the best City ever going to be. And now we've got even better. So who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen? Maybe we'll lose Gundogan and somebody else will appear that plays his role even better. And we'll look back at this season and go, oh, I can't believe I thought that was the best City team because it's got even better. But it's been absolutely crazy. It's been absolutely crazy. And every single moment of it, you just think, this is ridiculous, it really feels surreal almost.
Was there a time when, and I'm sure I'll ask the same question to Den in part 2 later, but do you think that, was there ever a time when you thought, yeah, this is Arsenal's, we're going to do really well to hang on to this now? When you were like 8 points back?
There was a point around, when it was out of City's hands and we required Arsenal to drop some points, going into that, I think, Southampton game, there was a real kind of, I thought it might be Arsenal's title. I think if you'd asked me then, I think I was sort of going, well, we should, if there's ever a year to go all in on the Champions League, this will be the year because the league looks like it might go. What Arteta's built at Arsenal is incredible. And I actually feel that if you'd asked me a team, I really, really couldn't stand the idea of losing the league to Liverpool. I would hate to lose it to United or Chelsea. If you'd asked me to pick a team to lose it to, it would have been this Arsenal team. There's a lot of players there that I like. There's a few sort of. I really like the fact that there's a core of like young English prospects. There's Ramsdale and Saka and Smith Rowe and players like that have got really bright features in the game. And Nketiah, I would like to see them do well. I think they also look a nice group of lads. Then you've also got Arteta, who's got that City connection, and whilst he seems to have really grown into his own personality, and you're seeing him sort of. He's gone from the kind of mild-mannered professional to a really aggressive, and he's learned from Guardiola and Klopp, and he's got his own problems now with fourth officials, and but he's become a bit more of a winner, and he's got a bit of bite to him. I think that's sort of what Arsenal have been missing over the years. Is they've had loads of gentleman managers, but now they've got Arteta, who can be a bit of a bastard if he wants to be. I think that grit has brought them through, and I think Arsenal are a really interesting team. But it seems that if this Arsenal had this season back to front, like every fixture in reverse. So they'd lost the first 3 or 4 games of the season, but then gone on the amazing run. There would be so much hype around Arsenal now. On the last day of the season, there'll be so much hype of how great next year is going to be. But there seems to be an apathy around Arsenal, and it's so undeserved because they've had such a great season with a really young. I think the youngest team in the league is that right?
Yeah, average. Yeah,
yeah, and that's amazing. And you look at where they are versus where, say, Liverpool are. Where Liverpool still got a great manager, they've still got some great players, but they've also got a lot of older players that don't seem to have replaced properly. Are going to have to buy the right players in the summer. Arsenal are pretty much ready made to go, and add 1 or 2 players, maybe a little bit of depth into there. But Arsenal could do this again next year and could really make a serious title push.
Yeah,
next year. And I think that has been so exciting for the league to see Arsenal back, and they bring such a big and passionate fan base to it. It's really fun having Arsenal around in the title race. I've kind of missed it in a way. And as much as we all love someone losing their head and screaming into a camera on Arsenal fan TV or calling up 5 Live, no one does that like Arsenal.
Yeah,
it's been really fun having them in the title race, and it's also been great hearing Arsenal fans say we're going to win it, we're going to win it, we're going to win it, and have an absolute meltdown, because that's also been brilliant to watch as well. But I genuinely wish them well, and I think they will be up there next year.
I think it's good for the neutral, but also good for English football to have as many different teams as possible vying for the title. Because I mean, like, you look at everybody was kind of, I know the narrative's kind of changed. I think you're right. Like, I think we were all, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm throwing my hat in the ring here. I wanted Arsenal to win the league, but that's because I don't want the Premier League to end up like the German league. It's the same reason. I mean, I've got a massive soft spot for Dortmund. I've been there a few times. But we all wanted Dortmund to win on Saturday. We all wanted them to win the title over Bayern, I think. But I think the kind of narratives changed because Arsenal's collapse has been so big that City, I mean, like you said, you wouldn't. If City were going to catch Arsenal, I don't think anybody thought it was going to be with 2 games to spare. I thought everyone thought it was going to go right down to the wire. It's kind of why I lined you and Den up for this week. I didn't think it was going to finish as early as it did, and that's kind of where the narrative around Arsenal, the negative, like you say, the apathy, the negativities come from. But second half of the season, since the World Cup break, City have been, for want of a better term, you've been absolutely flawless until these last 2 games, really. Now, do you think these last 2 games, does it make you worry a little bit going into the FA Cup final and the Champions League final with these last 2 displays? Or do you think it's just, job done? We don't need to run ourselves into the ground with these 2 games. We want to stay fresh and rested for those games. Or do you think it would have been really good to carry the momentum over?
If it'd been up to me, I think I would have liked to have seen a full strength side play Brentford and batter them, and go for a 3 or 4-0 win and really turn it on. And I get why he didn't. And people have been saying, we should rest our players. Well, you go, it's how often does City play every 7 days? There's always going to be a midweek, particularly this season with all the disruptions. There's always a midweek game. It's always every 3 days, every 4 days. So I feel like if we played, a full 11 and then had 6 days before the World Cup, before the FA Cup final, we could have. That would have been enough time for those players to rest and recover, and it would be nice for them to play as a group and to kind of maintain that. But what do I know? Pep Guardiola is one of the greatest football minds that we've ever seen. I completely trust what he's doing, and those players know. I'm sure if the star players had knocked on his door and said, "I want to play today," Guardiola would have played them if they preferred to have the rest and the break, and that's what they want to do, and they want to make sure they don't get injured or suspended or whatever. I can understand why those players would want to do that. And I think the sort of players that City have got now, they're all robots and machines. The mentality is crazy. Mentality monsters. I think it was Klopp who said that about his own players. Well, that seems to be what it is at City. And I think going back to the previous point about Arsenal and the collapse there, I genuinely think that's just the culture at Arsenal, and the nervousness as a fan base breeds into the players that they've had so many disappointing seasons and they've thrown so much away in the last few years and fallen apart so frequently that I think around Arsenal there was a real nervousness. And when they started dropping points, it rained and it poured. I think partially because that was like, well, this is what's going to happen. And they were telling themselves, and the players hadn't got the experience of seeing a title race out. Whereas since that 93-20 moment at City, City's fan base, the culture around the club has changed completely, because that Aguero moment has kind of left something in the back of the mind of City, that whilst there is a nervousness at City, there's also this underlying thing of like, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. We could pull this out of the bag.
It almost happened last season as well, didn't it?
Yeah. I think
like the end of last season, it was very similar. It wasn't quite the Aguero moment, but it was the same, wasn't it? It was, we're 2-1 down to Villa, but the mentality didn't change. It was like, well, there's still time, there's still minutes on the clock, like we can still win this, and you turned it around and you won the title again. Like, it's Arsenal don't have that.
Beating Villa in that way, and Mahrez scoring quite late at Brighton away a few years ago. There's been a few moments like that, and I think it means that over the course of the season, there'll be players in the dressing room at City, such as, I think Gundogan is a great example of that, but various senior figures that have been around the block a few times and remember those seasons, and will have such a confidence. We'll see this out. And I think that kind of goes in now to the big games such as the FA Cup. There will be several players at City that will go into that cool as a cucumber. And with United, although they've already won a trophy this season, I feel like it will be very mixed in their dressing room, of some more of the sort of junior players or newer signings that haven't got the experience of being an elite club that win every season or are expected to win. Yeah. And there will be a few United players there, that senior players that remember losing big games or disappointing seasons. And it's so hard to get that back and get that mentality back, and to get a manager that has that authority to kind of stamp that is so rare. There's so few, and Ten Hag is starting to build that, but I don't think it's quite the finished article. And I think City, if they rest players, and there's players there that haven't played for 2 weeks, will still go into that FA Cup hot and focused and ready to put in a 10 out of 10 performance.
Yeah, and I think beating upstarts Newcastle at Wembley is one thing. Beating Pep's Man City at Wembley is a completely different thing altogether, isn't it? Like, for United, like, yes, they won at Wembley once a season, they won a trophy, but it was against a team that really most people would have expected them to win. But against City, like, it's a different animal. You're playing against a team that is built to win as many trophies as possible, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the fact that City have been to Wembley like so many times now in the last, it's been like 14th, 15th time we've been in such a short period of time. It's absolutely crazy that City, have done that. And I think I'm so excited to get down there, excited as ever to get down there. And I think playing United at Wembley as part of this season, and I think they'll be determined to stop City from winning the treble, and to win something of their own, will be a really, really stressful day out. But I think City, the big pitch at Wembley, lends itself to the way Guardiola wants to play, and the fact that so many players will have memories and positive experiences at Wembley, it's such a good sign. Such a good sign for City.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I'm looking forward to the game. To be fair, I think there's always something just about a Manchester derby, particularly in a final as well. That, because this is the last time you played them at Wembley. Was it a semi-final a few years ago? When did you play them in the semi-final?
Semi a few times.
So
never.
Yeah, it's always a good game. So I'm looking forward to it as a neutral. But I will ask this question. So I was going to say, like, what's your prediction for next season? But this season isn't over yet, so I'll leave that question. But what I will say is, do you win the treble?
I think it really, really feels like something special is happening at City, and I think it does feel like this. Without wanting to, I mean, it's such a. I'm finding it hard to get the words out of my mouth, but it does feel like this could be City's year, and it's it feels like the world has been made for City, and so much work has gone into getting to this point. But United have been great towards the end of the season. They've really started playing well, and I think anything can happen at Wembley. And Inter Milan, so many people have written off Inter Milan. They've got to a Champions League final. They've won some massive games to get there. I think Dzeko will score. I think that seems to be an inevitability. And I think City, we've talked so much about mentality. If there's one competition where City don't have a great record in, it's the Champions League. And I think there'll be a few City players that will be nervous whether they get there. I think this is our best, as good an opportunity as we're ever going to get to do it. And I really want to see us do it. And I think we probably should from this position, but who knows, man? Who knows?
I mean, to be fair, as a neutral, I think the big game. I don't think it's Inter. I think it's United, because for United to be playing against you lot at Wembley, like that's United's legacy, being the treble winners themselves. Like that's their legacy, and you'd think it would be a motivation enough to stop you from doing that. I think there will be there'll be a moment where you think it's not going to happen. I think Inter aren't going to be pushovers like everyone thinks they're going to be, but I think if anyone's going to stop it, it'll be United personally. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out, won't we? But would you like to finish off with a game of Obscure Footballer of the Week?
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is my thing. I'm really excited for this. The pressure's on now. I'm stressed doing it in front of an audience, but I'm big into the Wikipedia footballer on Twitter, as that comes out quite frequently. And
it's very similar to that. So I use the Wikipedia I use the Wikipedia pages to kind of get my stats and stuff, and the idea is you guess it as quickly as possible. And I've done it slightly differently because Alex is our only guest today. We were supposed to have more, and there will be, like I said, there will be part 2 coming up with Den, who's an Arsenal fan. Euan's off doing his own thing today because it's a bank holiday. But I will. So I've tailored it to Man City. I've made it a Man City player. If it's too easy, if he gets it straight away, I have got another player in mind. And it's not the one I mentioned off air, Alex, because that would have made it way too easy. But we'll start. So start with the easy one. I was born on the 28th of November, 1990.
Okay.
Making 32 years old. I was born, and I've done it again, regular listeners. I've picked another place which I'm probably going to pronounce incorrectly, so I apologize to anyone from here if I'm insulting them. But he was born in a place called Uccle in Belgium, or Uccle, I don't know, like spelled UCCLE. So born in Belgium. It is Dedrick Boyata. Yes, that was very easy. I'm gonna have to go for my second player, aren't I?
I love a bit of Dedrick.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go for my second player. This is gonna be I'm gonna have to go pull out the big guns.
Sorry to ruin a bit of content there. I'm so proud.
No, it's fine. No. It's all good. It's all good because actually, what it does is it shows that you're a legit City fan and I haven't just pulled somebody.
Where is Dedrick playing these days? Because he sort of became a bit of a journeyman. He was in Scotland for a bit, and then I think he rocked up in Turkey or the Middle East, I think, somewhere.
No, he's at Club Brugge now. So he was he started at City. He only played 13 games in 6 years, which isn't great. But seven games in the 2010-11 season. That's kind of when I remember him being there. He was on loan at Bolton, then went on loan to FC Twente, joined Celtic, then Hertha Berlin, and now he's at Club Brugge. So, yeah, I mean, some big clubs on the CV, to be fair, but not that many games, considering he's been around for nearly 15 years now.
For Boyata he looked great, and he was signed as like the heir to Vincent Kompany. And then he came on. I think we were playing United, and he was so amped up for it. It's like, yeah, I'm ready for this. And then just walked on, absolutely smashed into someone, got sent off, and we never really saw him again after that. He turned up in the odd cup match here and there, but I think he was seen to be untrustworthy. And then like a long list of loan seasons. But he sort of continues to turn up in Belgian World Cup squads.
Yeah, the Belgium national team, they absolutely love him, don't they? But I have got an alternative, and I'm confident that this one might be a little bit more difficult. If it's not, then I've just picked savant in Alex. He's just an obscure footballer savant. But this one's hopefully a bit better. Right, we'll try again. I was born on the 29th of August, 1978.
Okay.
Making 44 years old in Kaduna, Nigeria.
Is this Dixon Atuhu?
No, it's not. I was really panicking then you were going to get that again straight away. But no, it's not Dixon Atuhu. I made my professional debut at Anderlecht in 1994 and finished my career with LA Galaxy in 2008.
Is this somebody who's played for Manchester City?
No, so I made it more difficult.
Right,
I made it more difficult this time. Sorry.
Okay,
I should have prefaced that. No, I've made it more difficult.
44 years old, born in Nigeria. came through the Anderlecht, started their career at Anderlecht.
Played for Nigeria. Isn't like a curveball. They did play for Nigeria nationally.
And then they came through at Anderlecht, finished in LA Galaxy.
Yes, played in the Premier League in the middle.
Okay. Can I know how many Premier League appearances they made, or is it
full career appearances? They made 254 appearances, scoring 13 goals, about 170 odd in the Premier League.
Oh, okay, all right.
I played most of my Premier League games for Chelsea before moving to Newcastle United.
Oh, okay. So this is not John Obi Mikel.
No, not John Obi Mikel. I'm most famous. Yes, yeah. I'm most famously remembered for being knocked out by a clearance at the King Power Stadium whilst playing for Newcastle.
Oh, you're going to say his name, and it's going to kick me. Go on, put me out of misery.
I'll see if this helps. He was mostly played as a left back.
Yeah, I can see his face. Go on, feed me.
Sure. Don't. I'll see if there's anything else I can tell you. There isn't really any of the personal life. Anything here? No. Career honors. No. Celestine Babayaro.
Yeah. Celestine, what a cracking name that is.
It's a good.
Celestines in my class at school, mate. What a great guy. Yeah, is he only 44?
Yeah. I mean, it was a pretty short-lived career, really, wasn't it? 14 years, really playing. And when I was pretty tenuous then he went to LA Galaxy. He made no appearances, but that's where he signed for them and he was paid by them, but he just didn't make any appearances. Interestingly, I think he played for them at the same time as David Beckham.
Really?
2008 sort of time.
When Beckham? Room.
Yeah, Babayaro and Beckham on the wing. Do you want to know his full name?
So what time did Babayaro sign for Chelsea? Sort of late 90s?
97, yeah. And then left in 2005.
2005, then he was at Newcastle.
Yeah, then to Newcastle 05 to 08. And then went to LA Galaxy and then retired, apparently.
So I never knew that he played in Europe, Babayaro. I always thought he was assumed kind of come through a London academy or whatever.
Yeah, I thought he would have. But his full name is even better than his like Celestine. His full name is Celestine Boyd Jonto Hysieth Babayaro.
Fantastic.
That is an excellent name, isn't it? But
Hysieth.
Hysieth. Hysieth.
Great. Absolutely cracking. I love that.
I'm probably pronouncing that wrong as well, but you know.
Yeah. I love a bit of I love a sort of Central African footballer's name. Marvelous Nakamba is a fantastic footballer.
Really good for newspaper headlines as well, I imagine.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's kind of a sort of tough tackling central midfielder playing in the second division, because I feel like there's just kind of not quite there for back page front headlines. But
to be fair, Luton might make the deal permanent. You don't know, but we'll see what happens there. So that brings us to the end of part one on where the Premier League title was won and lost. Where it was won was unfortunately at the City Ground for me. That's not something that I'd like to really put on record, that Forest stayed up whilst also taking the title of Arsenal. But Alex, thank you so much for giving up your Monday afternoon to be with us. Where can people find you? Where's some shows you've got coming up?
Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Alex Hylton, Hylton with a Y, Hylton. I run the pub quiz at the Tree in Leicester City Centre every Monday. I'm always there, and I'll be at the Edinburgh Fringe performing every single day with my new show called I Won't Let Failure Go to My Head at 5:45 every night in August. If people are around at the Edinburgh Fringe, I'd love to see you there. This has been quite a serious chat about football. I've really enjoyed it. It's been proper like pub football chat. So I'm sorry I've not been sort of popping jokes off or whatever, but I quite enjoyed our quite serious and sort of pontificate chat about the state of things in football. It's been lovely chatting to you. So thank you for having me as well.
No, thank you very much for coming on, mate. More than welcome to come back on anytime you want. We have got if you want to put your trivia to the test, we have got an end of season quiz coming up towards the end of June if you are free.
I would love to.
I'll let you know the details of when that is. And if you would like to join us, you're more than welcome, and you can put that knowledge to the test. But yeah, make sure you check Alex out. I'll be back. We'll be back probably releasing tomorrow with part 2 with Den, because I'm going to be recording that later on. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us again, guys. You've been listening to Talking Bollocks. Alex, take care, mate. See you soon.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much.